Okay, so finding and using slopes of lines. This is algebra that you're going to be doing in geometry because you use algebra forever. So remember the equation to find a slope. Exactly, rise over run. So the equation was y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So when they've given you 2 points, you can always solve for the slope. To refresh your memory, they gave you some key concepts. That just talks about the different types of slopes. A negative slope, as you look left to right, a negative slope goes down left to right. A positive slope rises from left to right. A zero slope is a horizontal line, and a vertical line is considered an undefined slope. So if they ever ask you to describe the slope, these are the 4 ways you could describe it. So let's look at example 1. All right, you have a coordinate plane with some lines on here, and they would like you to find the slope of line A and the slope of line D. A is the blue line. First of all, looking at the blue line, is that a positive, negative? Oh, it's a negative slope. Very good. So do we have 2 points on this line? Yes, we have 6, 4 and 8, 2. So again, using our equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Does it matter which point you put first? No, as long as you use the same point first on both parts of the equation. So I'm going to use this bottom one first. So y2 would be 2 minus 4. And then on the bottom is x, which is 8 minus 6. What is 2 minus 4? And then 8 minus 6? Negative 2 divided by positive 2 is a negative 1. So the slope for this equation would be negative 1. All right, now let's look at the slope of line D. Okay, well, what kind of line is line D? It's an undefined because it's a vertical line. Do I actually need to solve for this slope? No, you can just say m equals undefined. However, I'm going to solve for it because I want you to see what it looks like mathematically. So I would take 6, 0 and 6, 4 as my 2 points. So I would say 4 minus 0 over 6 minus 6. Which would be 4 over what? 0. Anytime you get 0 in the bottom of the fraction, that's where you get the undefined. If you ever get where the 0 is on the top, that's going to be your horizontal line. So the slope would just be 0. Okay? My math teacher used to say you can never divide by 0, you end up with a black hole. So it was always easy for me to remember. You just can't do it. Sheldon says it, I think, on Big Bang Theory too. Can't divide by 0. All right. Do you want me to do another? I think you guys are fine off that. Let's talk about postulate 17 and 18. All right, postulate 17 is slopes of parallel lines. In a coordinate plane, 2 non-vertical lines are parallel if and only if they have the same slope. Okay, that is the definition of a parallel line. They have to have the same slope on a coordinate plane. They will have different x and y intercepts, possibly. but they will always have the same slope. Perpendicular line, this is a math trick that you will use forever. In a coordinate plane, two non-vertical lines are perpendicular if and only if the product of their slope is -1. So I take the slope of one line, multiply it times the slope of the second line, and I will always, always, always get -1. So slope times slope equals -1. You know that's a perpendicular line. All right. So let's use this to identify some parallel lines. Look at example 2. I just did this with 8th grade. This is so funny. Okay, so we have 3 lines here, and they want to find out which of these 2 lines are parallel. Looking at them, just glancing at them, you could think that all 3 are parallel. But the only way to know for sure is if we find the slopes of each of these lines. So let's find the slope of the blue line. We have our 2 points, excuse me. Which one do we want to set first? Doesn't really matter, so let's do 4 minus 0. And then you have -2 minus a -3. Please be really careful when you have negative numbers. You always have to make sure you put that minus a negative because it will make a difference in your signs. What's a negative times a negative? So this is actually a positive. So we have 4 minus 0, which is just 4, over -2 plus 3 would give you a +1. So my slope in this case is 4. All right, let's find the slope of the red line. So you have my 2 points. M equals 5 minus 1 over 4 minus 3. 5 minus 1 is 4. 4 minus 3 is what? 1. 4 over 1 is? All right, so already we know that line K1 and K2 are definitely parallel. So let's find out about K3. So my slope is 3 minus a -2 over 6 minus 5. What's 3? A negative minus, that makes it a positive. So 3 plus 2 is? And then 6 minus 5 is? So this slope is? So K3 is slope is 5. So is this parallel? No. At some point way, way, way down the lines, they will cross. It's just going to be really far down the line. Any questions on how to find parallel lines? Pretty good? All right, so let's do perpendicular lines. This is example 3. It tells you line H passes through the point 3, 0 and 7, 6. And we're going to graph the line that is perpendicular to that and passes through the point 2, 5. So the first thing we need to do is how are we going to find the slope of the original line, line H? We're going to use the points, right, that they gave us? These 2 points. So the slope is, let's say 6 minus 0 over 7 minus 3. What's 6 minus 0? 7 minus 3? Seven, 6, 5. Yeah, it's 4, right? So, and reduce 6 over 4, you get 3 over 2. Okay, now what was the postulate that talks about perpendicular lines? What is it? What do we know? Right, I multiply one slope times the new slope, and I should always get -1. So can I find the slope of the second line? Yes. So I say 3/2 times the slope of the second line equals -1. So now I can just solve for M2, which is the slope of the second line. How would I move this 3/2 over to the other side? Multiply the reciprocal. So I'm going to say 2/3 times 2/3. So that cancels. -1 times -2/3 is, I'm sorry, times +2/3 would just give you -2/3. So this is my new slope. So now they want me to graph it. So we have our graph, we have our slope. What other information did they tell us? It says graph the line perpendicular to H, which we have the new slope, that passes through what? 0.2, 5. So we have a starting point and we have a slope. So can I graph it? Yeah. So I go to 2, 5. So over 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's my first point. What's my slope? Down 2/3. And I have a line. Now, it only asked you to graph the second line, so you didn't have to graph the first one. But if you look at the picture in your book, they graphed both lines. You can see how their first line, H, is the blue line. You can see how the new line that we drew is perpendicular to it, the red line. Cool, right? You guys are like, man, you're a nerd, Miss Cease, if you think that's cool. That's it. That's the lesson. Any questions? So you're doing lesson 3.4. You need to do numbers 7 through 21 odds only. And then IXL E2.